A freezing winter morning covered New York City in silence. Employees rushed into the towering headquarters of Carter Industries, where billionaire CEO Ethan Carter was about to announce the biggest business deal of his career. Hidden among the crowd was an elderly janitor named Samuel Brooks. For 25 years, he had quietly cleaned the building before sunrise. Hardly anyone knew his name. Most executives walked past him as if he were invisible. That morning, Samuel noticed something unusual. A loose steel panel was hanging above the main entrance. He looked up, his instincts screaming that something was wrong. Just as Ethan Carter stepped out of his limousine, the massive steel panel broke free and crashed toward him. Without thinking, Samuel sprinted forward and shoved the billionaire out of the way. The heavy metal slammed into Samuel instead, throwing him to the ground. The crowd froze. The richest man in the city had just been saved by the poorest employee in the building. No one could have imagined that this single act would uncover a secret buried for more than 20 years. Samuel regained consciousness in the hospital. Ethan Carter personally visited him, something that stunned everyone. As the billionaire thanked him, he noticed an old silver pendant hanging around Samuel's neck. Ethan's face suddenly turned pale. That pendant looked identical to one his late father had worn decades ago. Curious, Ethan asked where Samuel got it. Samuel hesitated. Then quietly said, "I promised someone I would never tell anyone." Those words haunted Ethan. Later that night, he searched through his father's old photographs. There it was. A picture taken 23 years earlier. Standing beside his father was a much younger Samuel. But why had his father never mentioned him? And why had Samuel spent 25 years working as a janitor instead of asking for help? The mystery had only begun. Samuel finally revealed the truth. 23 years earlier, Ethan's father had nearly lost the company during a financial disaster. Banks refused to help. Investors disappeared overnight. Only one man stepped forward. Samuel. Back then, Samuel owned a successful construction business. He secretly sold everything he owned to save Ethan's father's company. But he demanded one condition. No one can ever know I helped. He wanted Ethan's father to succeed on his own, without carrying a debt of gratitude. Years later, Samuel lost everything in an economic crash. Ashamed, he quietly took a janitor job inside the very company he had once saved. He never told anyone. Not even Ethan. The billionaire sat speechless. The man everyone ignored had built the foundation of his family's fortune. The next morning, Ethan called an emergency company meeting. Thousands of employees gathered. Everyone expected a business announcement. Instead, Samuel entered the room in his janitor uniform. Employees whispered in confusion. Ethan walked onto the stage and shared Samuel's incredible story. Silence filled the hall. Many executives lowered their heads in shame. For years they had ignored the man who had secretly sacrificed everything for their company. Then Ethan surprised everyone. He announced Samuel would become honorary chairman for life. The audience erupted into applause. News channels around the world broadcast the emotional story. Millions were inspired. But Ethan wasn't finished yet. He had one final surprise. The next morning, Samuel arrived at Carter Industries before sunrise, just as he had done for the last 25 years. He wore the same navy blue janitor uniform, carried the same old cleaning cart, and greeted everyone with his usual warm smile. The security guard looked surprised. "Mr. Brooks, you don't have to work anymore." Samuel smiled gently. "I never worked because I had to. I worked because honest work gives peace." Inside the building, employees stopped what they were doing. Some quietly applauded as Samuel walked past. Others rushed over, offering to carry his cleaning supplies. Samuel politely refused. If you lose respect for small jobs, one day you'll lose respect for people. His words spread throughout the building within minutes. From his office window, Ethan Carter watched silently. His assistant asked, "Should we tell him to stop cleaning?" Ethan shook his head. "No. Today, he isn't cleaning floors. He's teaching us humility." At noon, Ethan invited Samuel to lunch. Instead of a luxury restaurant, Ethan took him to a small neighborhood diner. Samuel smiled. "This reminds me of my wife." Ethan looked at him. "You still think about her every day?" Samuel nodded. "Every single day." The conversation became quiet. Neither man realized that tomorrow would change Samuel's life forever. The following morning, Ethan asked Samuel to meet him on the rooftop. As the elevator doors opened, Samuel saw a breathtaking view of New York City. In the center stood a beautiful wooden box. Ethan handed him a small golden key. "I believe this belongs to you." Samuel slowly opened the box. Inside were legal documents. His hands began to shake. The company he had lost 20 years ago had been rebuilt. Every license, every office, every asset was now legally owned by Samuel Brooks once again. Samuel couldn't believe his eyes. "Why would you do this for me?" Ethan smiled. "Because everything I have exists because of your sacrifice." For the first time in decades, Samuel cried openly. But Ethan's surprise wasn't over. He invited Samuel downstairs. Hundreds of employees stood waiting outside. Behind them, thousands of construction workers, teachers, nurses, firefighters, and janitors. A giant banner slowly dropped. The Samuel Brooks Foundation. The foundation would receive $100 million to help honest workers facing financial hardship. Samuel stood frozen. He had spent his entire life helping others in silence. Now, his kindness would continue helping people long after he was gone. Tears rolled down his face as children handed him flowers. The crowd erupted into applause. News helicopters circled above. Millions watched the ceremony live across the world. Months later, the Samuel Brooks Foundation had transformed thousands of lives. Children received scholarships. Families moved into safe homes. Workers paid for life-saving medical treatments. People who had lost hope found a second chance. One evening, Samuel quietly visited his wife's grave. He placed a single white rose beside her headstone. Looking toward the sunset, he whispered, "We did it. I kept my promise." Far away, Ethan watched without disturbing him. He finally understood that greatness is never measured by wealth. It is measured by the lives you change. Before leaving the cemetery, Samuel smiled one final time. His story became a lesson taught in schools, businesses, and leadership seminars around the world. People remembered one simple truth. Never judge someone by their uniform. Because the quietest person in the room may be the greatest hero of all.